I have abused my victims, mutilated them, pulled the intestines out of their bodies, and bound them around their neck. Welcome to my cruel world. I am Delphine LaLaurie, a wealthy slaveholder from the 19th century, and this is my story. I was born in New Orleans in 1786 as Delphine Macarty. My parents were wealthy plantation owners, and I grew up in a privileged environment. After two of my wealthy husbands had died early, I finally married Dr. Leonard LaLaurie in 1825. 6 years later, we acquired a plot for the construction of a magnificent house on Royal Street, 1140. Like most other socialists in America at the time, we had many slaves who worked for us. They were hired to do small work around the house. But behind this facade hid a dark secret. I was a cruel and sadistic woman who abused and tortured her slaves. I listened to their screams and watched them curl up in pain. I even had a chamber on the roof of my house where I locked my victims in cages, mutilated them and cut off their body parts. Neighbors repeatedly heard loud quarrels and screams from my house. There were already rumors about my barbaric treatments. My marriage failed again and officially dissolved in 1834. That same year, at a party in the house, a fire broke out from the kitchen. When firefighters and police stormed into the house to get the fire under control, they found my 70-year-old black slave. She was chained to the oven. She admitted that she had lit the fire because she was afraid of the punishment I would give her. Eventually, she led the police to the attic, where 7 other slaves were chained and wearing necklaces with sharp iron bars pointed at their throats. While they were at my house, I was already fleeing to Florence with Leonard. But what my neighbors found in the face of the fire stopped their breath. Hungry and scarred slaves were chained there. 7 of them were mutilated to different degrees, hung on their necks, their limbs stretched and torn apart. A man was wearing a neck iron and an old woman had a deep wound on her head. Some were wearing spikes on their necks that prevented them from moving their heads. Some were literally skinned by my flogging. They were naked and locked in cages. After we escaped, we were never seen again. In total, we had at least 54 slaves between 1816 and 1834. To this day, people say you can still hear screams from our house,